My name is Charlotte Mayfield. I'm 64 years old. And this story happened in Savannah, Georgia, 3 years ago. My mother had passed away just a few weeks before. She had a long battle with Parkinson's, a war that I followed closely because, unlike my siblings, I never left. I never married. I never had children. I stayed to take care of her. Our house was old, made of dark wood, tall windows, and that porch with a swing that creaked even without wind. It was in a neighborhood further from downtown Savannah, among low trees and discreet neighbors. My two siblings, Douglas and Abigail, live in other states. They only came for the funeral and, to be honest, seemed more concerned with the reading of the will than anything else. My father passed away more than 15 years ago, and his inheritance was all in my mother's name. And she was clear about the divisions. She wrote everything down, registered it at the notary's office. I was going to get the house. It was her wish. And, in a way, also the last thing that connected me to the world. At the reading of the will, the lawyer was direct. Douglas would receive a plot of land on Tybee Island. Abigail would inherit a bank account with $20,000. And me, I would get the house where I lived since I was born, the one who took care of her until the end. Douglas accepted without discussion. Abigail, however, didn't. You can't keep the whole house, Charlotte. That's unfair. We are all children. The lawyer explained that the house had been in my name since 2019, all done legally. But Abigail left the room huffing, swearing that things wouldn't stay like this. 2 days later, she appeared at my door with a forced smile on her face and a gift in her hands, a doll. I saw this little doll, and it reminded me of you. I thought it would be a symbol of peace between us. You always liked old dolls, right? It was true. I have a collection, small, but precious to me. And that doll was beautiful. Pink satin dress, golden hair in stiff curls, glass eyes that seemed wet. The doll had something, sweet, nostalgic. Abigail stayed for a short time. She hugged me in a cold way, but smiled. I'm glad you accepted the gift. That night, I slept in my mother's room. My eyes burned from crying so much. I took her pillow, still with that old lavender scent, and lay down hugging it. The doll was sitting next to my bed, along with the other two from my collection. I woke up at 3:17 in the morning. The silence was heavy, as if there was something dense in the air. It was only when I sat up in bed that I noticed. The new doll wasn't where I left it. It had been placed on the edge of the bed, facing me, with its head tilted, as if watching me sleep. I stared at it for minutes, trying to convince myself that I had moved it myself, But I remembered leaving it with the others. I put it back in place and lay down again. But I didn't sleep well. Nightmares came in waves. I dreamed of my mother, standing at the bedroom door, looking at me with very large eyes. But the face wasn't quite hers. It was similar. Almost, as if someone was trying to impersonate her. I woke up, drenched in sweat. On the floor, fallen, the picture frame with our photo from 1991. The glass was cracked in an X, shaped right on my mother's face, and on the doll's lap was a strand of hair, grey, from my mother. After that night, everything started to unravel. The next day, I went to the attic to look for a box of my mother's old papers. I wanted to find some photos to have framed, but something was pulling me towards her closet. I don't know how to explain it. A silly urge, like I needed to open it. Review the clothes, smell her scent. When I opened the door, I smelled that lavender scent mixed with mold. It was strange. The clothes were the way I left them, but something there seemed wrong. The new doll was on the floor of the room, lying on its side. I was absolutely sure that it was sitting on the shelf. Swear to God, I picked it up carefully and, on impulse, opened the little dress to see if it had a tag. But I found something different. A small cut sewn on the back of the doll's body, like a disguised scar. I didn't think much. I put the doll back with the others and went to make coffee. But things, didn't go back to normal. I started to feel weird, lack of appetite, a strange weakness that not even sleep solved. I thought it was grief, but the symptoms worsened. Chest pains, nausea, blurred vision. In the mirror, I noticed that my skin was paler, as if I had caught some strong virus. One night, while preparing tea, I smelled a strange smell coming from the kitchen like sewage. I checked the drain, the plumbing, the refrigerator. Nothing but the smell was stronger near the doll. It was on the windowsill in the living room, and I had left it in the bedroom. My heart rate accelerated. I squeezed the doll with both hands, as if expecting it to do something. The whole house was silent. But inside me, something was starting to change. A restlessness. A fear that I couldn't explain with logic. That same week, Abigail called me. "Hi, Charlotte. How are you feeling?" Sweet voice. Too worried to be real. Tired. "I think I'm sick," I replied. She giggled. "Maybe it's just the weight of loneliness, I wanted to hang up right then, but she continued. "Oh, I forgot to mention, that doll I gave you. I found it at an esoteric fair in Charleston. The girl told me it was a piece of protection, something about warding off bad energy. Isn't that interesting? Bad energy, okay." After that, I started vomiting at night. Not food. It was dark, thick liquid, like coffee grounds. And sometimes, strands came in the middle. Like hair, I started to have purple spots on my arms. I went to the doctor tests, came back normal. "It must be stress," he said. But I knew it wasn't just that. On the third night in a row without sleep, with the smell of the room unbearable, I called my neighbor, June, a retired nurse and my friend of decades. She came quickly. "Charlotte, you look awful." What happened? I told her everything. My mother's death, Abigail's visit, the doll. June looked at the corner of the room where the doll was sitting. "That doll, there's something about it that gives me chills. Give it to me." I took it, handed it over. She held it carefully, turned her back, felt the fabric. Then she murmured, "There's something sewn in here, She used a box cutter from her bag and slowly opened the old seam. The interior revealed a yellowish paper with letters written by hand. A photo of me, folded in four, with a small pin piercing my face. A small piece of bone, small, thin, and a strand of blonde hair that definitely wasn't mine. June turned pale. "Charlotte, this doll was prepared. This is work done. Curse, spell, whatever you want to call it. Do you think it was?" "My sister," my voice faltered. "You yourself said she was furious, and look what's happening to you, I sat on the bed with a heavy body and a soul light with dread. The doll, at that moment, seemed to smile, but I swear, her mouth was closed when I handed it to June. June was holding the doll in her hands, still open, as if it was some kind of dissected animal. The paper that she took from inside was handwritten, with a strange, somewhat shaky handwriting. It seemed old. Its smell was of wet leather and something sour. She read aloud, slowly. May her flesh weaken. May her bones weigh like lead. May each night be darker than the previous. May everything that is hers, one day, come to me. I turned cold. My mouth went dry. My hands trembled. She cursed me, June. My neighbor shook her head, saying nothing. She just breathed deeply, looking at the doll as if expecting it to jump in our faces at any moment. This is a trade work, she said. She didn't just want you to get sick. She wanted to benefit from your suffering, a living offering. I was the candle that went out for another person to shine brighter. We decided that same night to burn the doll. We went to June's backyard, got a metal bucket, alcohol, matches, and with all the care in the world, put the doll inside. She told me not to say anything during the ritual, just observe. We lit it. The fire rose quickly, but the smell was unbearable. It wasn't just burning cloth. It was as if something alive was melting there. From the middle of the fire, the doll cracked loudly, as if something had exploded inside it. June jumped. Me too, but what scared me the most was the scream. Yes, a scream. Coming from inside the bucket, a muffled sound, but very real. As if a child, or something pretending to be a child, was screaming from inside the flames. I fell to my knees on the grass, with a bitter taste rising in my throat. And then the fire went out. Without wind, without water, without anything, simply died. The doll was still there, burned, but not destroyed. The seams had opened completely, and right in the center of her body there was a red mark, like a closed eye. June gasped for breath. Charlotte, this isn't normal. This is a packed thing. Someone did this with ... true intention. I went back home, trembling. I didn't sleep a wink that night. At 3:33, of course, it was that time, the doorbell rang. I jumped out of bed. I went to the door with my heart beating in my neck. I opened it slowly. There was no one there, but on the floor, a small white envelope. Inside it, a photo of me, sleeping in my bed, and on the back, scribbled in red pen, "Making you sick is easy. I want to see what blooms in her place." I fell to my knees in the entrance hall, trembling, alone, terrified. But at that moment, I realized one thing. She didn't just want to hurt me. She wanted to replace me. The next morning, I went straight to the hospital. Not to consult her, though I needed to, but to visit an old acquaintance of my mother's, Mrs. Dahlia Abrams. She was a retired nurse and had a reputation for being esoteric. She always wore evil eye bracelets and knew more about herbs than many pharmacists. It had been years since I had spoken to her, but something told me that she would understand what it was about. I found Dahlia sitting on the porch of the clinic, where she was doing physical rehabilitation. Even with her white hair and milky eyes, she seemed to recognize me right away. "Margaret's daughter, right? The one who got the house." "Yes, ma'am, and I'm having a problem. I think someone cast a curse on me." She didn't laugh. She didn't doubt. She didn't ask why. She just clicked her tongue and said, "Let me guess. You have a doll at home." Had I burned it? She widened her eyes. Alone with a neighbor. She shook her head no. She sighed like someone who has seen this script before. "And even so, you didn't get better, right? Worse." And I received a photo of myself sleeping in my bed. Dahlia was silent for a few seconds. Then she spoke in a much more serious tone. "This isn't just a tying work. This is a replacement. This is someone wanting to take your place, to steal your vital energy, to steal your luck, your space, your name. How do I undo this?" You need to find the root. Root. Every curse needs an anchor, something that keeps it alive. If the doll was just the means, the root is somewhere else. She then told me about a woman, one called Ruth Elaine Farrow. She lived in Winston-Salem, about 2 hours from Asheville. She was known in the interior for attending to people with pains that no doctor can solve. But people also whispered that Ruth was more than a healer. She was what they called a seamstress of souls. It was said that she knew how to mend destinies, but she could also exchange them like exchanging a dress. Dahlia wrote the address on a folded paper and placed it in my hand. If there's anyone who can break this... it's her. But I warn you, Charlotte, she charges dearly, and sometimes the price isn't money. I took the road that same afternoon. 2 strong coffees and more fear than gasoline drove me. Winston-Salem seemed to be always somewhat cloudy. Ruth's house was at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by twisted trees that seemed to whisper to each other. The house itself seemed straight out of a Gothic tale, old, with windows covered by dark curtains, and a doorbell that seemed not to have worked for decades. I touched the iron knocker. I waited. The door opened slowly, and there she was, Ruth Elaine Farrow. Short, she wore a navy blue veil covering part of her face. She had dark and stained skin, and eyes so white that they seemed milky. But she could see me in a strange way, as if she saw everything from the inside. You took your time. Do you know me? I know the smell of what you carry. I entered. The house smelled of lavender, burnt candle, and wet earth. In the center of the room, there was a round mirror on the floor. Around it, 7 old dolls each, sewn with different fabric. Ruth told me to sit down and began drawing symbols with salt around me. Then she asked, "Say her name, the one who cursed you, Lenora." My sister. Ruth frowned. She didn't do it alone. She bought this spell, and it wasn't cheap. So, can I break it? No, she said, firmly, but you can transfer it. Transfer it where? She looked straight into my eyes. To whoever agreed to do the work. And if I just want to destroy everything. Ruth then squatted down, picked up one of the dolls from the circle, and handed it to me. This is your chance. You will bury this in her house, in a place where she steps, where her energy anchors itself, and then, she smiled sadly, then you pray for him to accept the contract back. Him who... Ruth didn't answer, but the mirror on the floor cracked, and for a second, I swear I saw something moving in there, as if the reflection wasn't mine, but of someone watching me from the other side. I drove back to Asheville with the doll in the back seat. It came inside a box lined with black fabric, just like Ruth instructed. At each speed bump or tighter curve, I heard a creak, as if the doll's cloth cracked on its own, or as if it breathed. But the worst part was when I stopped at a traffic light and, by reflex, looked in the rearview mirror. The box was ajar, and the glass eyes of the doll were turned directly at me. I swear she wasn't in that position before. I arrived home, took a bath, dressed in light clothes as Ruth ordered, and placed the doll inside a paper bag. I waited for nightfall. Lenora went to church on Wednesday nights with her husband. It was the only moment of the week when the house was alone. Her key was the same as mine, since we grew up there. And even with all the disagreements, she never changed the locks. 9:30 p.m., empty street. No movement. I entered. With light steps, I went to the living room. There, at the entrance to the hallway that led to the bedrooms, under an old rug, I dug with my hands. The earth was damp, cold, smelling of mold, the same smell that had been around my house since the day of the doll. I buried the bundle as deep as I could, and I recited the phrase that Ruth taught me. What is hers, let it return. What is mine, let it be freed. Who paid, let them receive. Who called, let them hear the answer. I closed the hole, I put the rug back in place, and I left without looking back. That night, for the first time in months, I slept without nightmares, without pains, without shadows in the mirror. It was a heavy sleep, deep and yet full of a strange feeling, as if I had returned something that I should never have touched. The next day, I woke up with the phone ringing. It was my brother. His voice was strange, tremulous. Charlotte, Lenorda. She ended up in the hospital. She won't wake up. She's breathing, but she doesn't respond to any stimulus. I went there not knowing what to feel. At the hospital, I found her lying down, pale, her eyes open but without a soul inside, as if she had forgotten how to inhabit a body. The doctors said it was a rare neurological condition, but I knew it was the price. In the corner of the room, on the visiting chair, someone had left a vase with dried flowers, wrinkled, wilted, but one of them seemed to be made of fabric, doll fabric. 2 weeks later, she was still in the same state. My brother told me that he was considering selling my mother's house now, mine to pay for an experimental treatment for Leonora, but I just shook my head. This house no longer has the same value. He didn't understand, and I never explained. Today, it's been 2 years since that night. The doll never came back. The energy of the house cleared little by little, but there are days when the wind blows through the window, the smell of that old cloth and that varnished wood still appears, as a reminder that everything has a price, and that sometimes justice doesn't come through the law. It comes through the mirror, through the salt, and through what you bury in the ground. Many people are asking about the doll and what happened to Leonora. She's still alive, but as far as I know, she no longer knows who she is. She doesn't speak. She doesn't recognize her children. She stares into nothingness and smiles, from time to time, as if she hears something that only she can hear. Maybe, somehow, she's happy. But it's not my sister who's there. Not anymore.